Why, hello. Didn't see you there. Welcome to Psychology with Expanded Celt. Today we are going to be doing a very interesting case study on a subject known as Chad. His current YouTube account is King Chad of YouTube. And he is a very interesting character. He seems to think that he is somehow a legend, something that he proclaimed himself. It's not been stated by others. He, first and foremost, let us, with our psychological evaluation and case study of King Chad of YouTube, we'll begin looking at his background and then do a evaluation of sorts of his psyche. When Chad was younger, he was not someone who necessarily fit in school. He was always one of those children who stood out a little bit. We'll discuss that later on. While growing up, he decided that he would lead a life of music, going after one of the less respected musical genres, some may argue is not even music, rap. He decided to forego his education, dropping out of school, and not going to college, or even going after a GED. He is not an academiac. Now you can understand why he would not continue his education. He was never one who was particularly good at learning, reading, writing, or thinking in general. Next, Chad went on after deciding to forego college and decided that he would continue, instead of going after his own dreams, he would make music in the basement of his parents' house. Now, of course, eventually his parents grew tired of him laying about, not actually having a job, and just doing nothing but making music and trolling MySpace. So, as one would, they kicked him out of the house. Luckily enough for Chad, his sister saw that without a family member there to support him and give him a place to live, he would be forced to live on the streets because he is an individual who is not capable of supporting himself. She, out of the pity and goodness of her soul, decided to take him in to her house and allow him to live there without having to pay rent. Now mind you, Chad, up to this point, has still foregone any sort of education or work. Chad decided to take his anger out because, as anybody in his situation, he was very disappointed in his real-life situation. So he decided to take out his angers, his rage, on YouTube. He created a character called Chad. Chad was a wigger. Something that many would argue that the real person behind Chad, Steven, is, because of his rap lifestyle and whatnot. But I've seen through past experiences with him that he was actually not that much of a wigger, just a bad musician. And that's about as far as that persona went. Now, we've taken all this evidence, we've looked at his life up to this point. Now we must discuss what it is that is wrong with Chad. What makes Chad tick? First off, let's look at his ability to read and write and interpret the words on pages around him. Chad, in the average comment, will misspell 2 to 3 words. Now, this could be argued that the reason that he has such issues spelling and reading and interpreting things on paper is dyslexia. However, I think that it is not dyslexia so much as just a lack of education. Had he continued his school career, I'm sure that he would have been able to eventually be able to spell things like touche. But, alas, he did not. Next, let's look at Chad's often manic tendencies on camera. Now, it has been thoroughly established that this is all a character, but we have seen the way he reacts to any sort of woman on YouTube, particularly, in this case, Italian broad. Now, if you look at Chad and the way he reacts to any sort of woman flirting with him, he immediately clings on to them, desperately, showing the signs of somebody who has a severe case of depression or lack of a girlfriend, ever. The other evidence pointing to him having severe depression are the fact that he has come to both me and Italian Broad on multiple occasions feeling very suicidal and relying upon us to talk him down. Now, some people say that suicide threats are just a cry for help, and with Chad that might have been it. But he still had the thoughts in his head that he wanted to end his own life, and he turned to me and Italian Broad for help. Now, that's not a sign of somebody who doesn't have depression, in my book. Next, let's look at how, on camera, or whenever he gets rejected by people like Italian Broad, he immediately turns on them. He begins to, as you teenagers say, lose his shit. He goes insane on camera, screaming or talking through Panda Bear dolls. And it's frankly not signs of a healthy psyche, if you know what I mean. So, he's obviously somebody who displays traits of somebody with dyslexia, bipolarism, as well as depression. On top of that, he also shows quite a few signs of ADD. Not the attention deficit disorder so much as the hyperactive part. He has very, very low impulse control, but overall, if we just look at this psychological evaluation, we can just tell that Chad needs to be medicated. This has been Dr. Expanded Celt. Good day.